This episode of Grilled by the Staff Canteen is sponsored by Westlands, the premier specialist British grower of microleaf, growing cresses, edible flowers, inspired leaves, sea herbs and specialty tomatoes. Visit www.westlandsuk.co.uk to find out more. Thanks for downloading Grilled by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen, and in this episode our deputy editor Tanny talks to Ben Tesh, chef owner of Restaurant Folium in Birmingham. It's worth noting that this interview was recorded before lockdown. Ben didn't start his career until he was 22, having first thought he wanted to be a doctor. He has since worked for Colin McGurran at Winteringham Fields, Noma and Turners 69 before opening his own place, Restaurant Folium.
Hi everyone, today we are in Birmingham at the heart of the jewellery quarter at Restaurant Folium with chef Ben Tesh. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
I'm very good as well. So let's get started. We're going to talk about you to start with. The purpose of this feature is obviously to give our audience a bit of an insight as to who you are, how you got to where you are today, and what really defines you as a chef. You're one of the sort of trailblazing chefs here in Birmingham. So people are probably excited to hear a little bit more about you. So let's get started. Did you, and I know the answer to this question, so it's a bit of a trick question, did you always know that you wanted to be a chef?
No. So I sort of got into the game a bit late, I would say, probably about when I was about 22, 23. I originally set out to be a doctor, which is a bit of a contrasting in career, but so I went to university and I sort of studied down that path, and I sort of got into cooking eventually, I would say, because I took a part-time job in a kitchen to fund myself through university, and then kind of ultimately, it was that sort of job that led me to sort of explore this interest in this field. So so once I'd finished university, I sort of decided to go down this avenue and see where it took me, really. So
what was it about being a chef that sort of appealed to you in it?
I think it was the the adrenaline rush, really, the mad rush in service, and the just that crazy hours kept, and just that part of it that really kind of gets your heart going, really. Makes it interesting, makes it exciting, so I think that's what I like about it, really.
And we're in Birmingham, but you were saying before we started recording, you're not actually from Birmingham. Where are you from?
No, I'm from a small village in West Yorkshire. The nearest sort of town is a town called Pontefract, which is near Leeds, so that's where I'm from originally.
And one of your first jobs was with Colin at Winteringham Fields. What was that like? What did you learn up there?
Yeah, so that was good. So that was the first sort of high-end restaurant I went into. As I said, after this decision, I decided to get into the restaurant industry. So I moved up there, and I didn't stay a huge amount of time there. It was about 6 months I stayed there for, and it was a bit of a ring of fire for me there, because I went from having absolutely no high-end restaurant experience to getting put on one of the main sort of most responsible sort of sections in the kitchen, which was kind of the sauce section, so the meat, the fish, which is not usually sort of a section someone would put you on at the start. I don't know why I did it. Maybe he wanted to see if I would sink or swim.
Throw you in at the deep end.
So that's what I did there. And back then it was a little bit more traditional, as I mentioned previously to you. And it was a good grounding for sort of for cooking, really, because I learned the basics in terms of sauces and meat preparation, things like that. And I say, even though it was a bit shorter, I left after a sort of conversation with Colin, who advised me to sort of try and do shorter stints in multiple places, because I'd started later, in order to gain experience quicker to catch up with, say, my peers that had started earlier. So that's why I kind of did it that way, really.
Good insight. What was Colin like to work for?
Yeah, it was good. I'd say he's a very fair guy. Like other chefs, everybody's got, everybody kind of wants to achieve what they want to achieve. So, there are hard days and there are less hard days in the kitchen, and but I think ultimately he's just quite fair as a boss and stuff. So.
Yeah, and a pretty good place to start.
Yeah, it was an amazing restaurant, amazing kitchen. All singing and dancing, really big, really grand. Very different to what I cook with now, but yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Sort of use of ingredients is a bit different, and like what sorts of things were you exposed to while you were there in terms of the different types of ingredients and techniques?
All right, yes. So as I said, so it was a mix really. It had traditional grounding, but there was sort of modern techniques within that, and I think that's where he was at that point in his career, I guess we would call it, or his where he was with his restaurant, where he was mixing that traditional with the new age stuff. I guess really he probably wanted to push it towards the more modern stuff, but he had obviously he took the restaurant on from the previous owner, who was very classical. Yeah. And whether he was doing it to
sort of ease the journey for the customers.
Exactly. Yeah.
And did it have a star?
It didn't have a star back then. No, I think it was 3 rosettes. But because he's only recently got his star, I think a couple of years ago. Yeah. Yeah. But still, very high level of cooking. Really should have probably had one, but yeah.
Great. So you followed his advice and you moved on. Where did you move on to from there?
So I moved to a restaurant called Antony's in Leeds. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously that was a bit closer to home for me, and so I started there, and I was there for probably just over 2 years, and started sort of section chef de partie. Yeah. And to sort of work my way up there as well. That was a bit of a smaller kitchen in terms of number, and probably a little bit bigger than the one I'm in now. But no, that was really good as well. Very, very different, because obviously Anthony's training was, the last place he worked before he opened his restaurant was El Bulli. So he, I guess, had a style that reflected that, and he was trying to bring those kind of
really modern,
out there dishes to Leeds. Yeah, so that was done that really to go into a restaurant with a contrasting style again, to try and follow this advice that Colin had previously told me, and try to just get out of kind of as much,
dabble in everything.
So
that's really interesting. How receptive were people in Leeds to that sort of cuisine?
I think when you're cooking cuisine like that, it's always going to be it's quite polarizing, I guess. So you're gonna get customers that absolutely love it, and then others that maybe just don't get it. So, but I mean, generally, very well received. But just because, say, the flavour combinations might be out there, or the actual preparation of the dish would be different. But generally as a whole. Yeah.
And how long were you there for?
Just over 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so I left there. In the end, I was running the kitchen, and in the end, I decided to leave there, because that's when I sort of got my placement at Noma sort of lined up. So it sort of ended there. So that.
How did you go about that, getting a placement at Noma?
Yeah, so it was just initially it was just a simple application process. It was a bit of sort of there's some writing involved and things like that. But I think I just initially did it on a whim, and I didn't really think I would get it, because a world famous restaurant, which I'm sure has numerous applications on the daily. I just thought I'd just throw my name in the hat and see what happened, and I was lucky enough to sort of to get chosen, I guess, to go. Awesome. So that was good. Yeah.
And how long was your placement for there?
That was from April to August, so I think it's about 5 months. So, yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, good. Again, I think people sometimes think these world famous restaurants are going to be completely different to other restaurants, but they're not really. Much different operation, but the crux of their kitchen are the same, really. Obviously, just the food that you produce in the end is I guess considered world class. Yeah.
I think what you hear a lot about when people go there is that obviously you learn lots of different things, but what you most get out of going to Noma is a sort of an approach and a sort of methodology and a sort of way of looking at food that's a bit different to elsewhere. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it was much different to the other 2 restaurants I'd been at. I think I found it very surprising when I initially went, because the dishes themselves, in terms of the plating and the presentation, were very simple. And I think when I was a naive young chef, I think that you automatically think more complicated dishes are going to be the ones that taste better. Yeah. But actually, as you grow as a chef, you realise that it's kind of like less becomes more. So the better chefs don't have a sort of approach where they say, okay, what does this dish need? They kind of say, what can I take away? What can I take out of this dish to make it better? So yeah, that was, I guess, the big thing I learned, as well as obviously the actual ingredients and their sort of approach. Was very different. They were very forward thinking at that time in terms of they were leading really the world with going out, and foraging back then wasn't like, I mean, it's rife now, it's all over, but they I guess pioneered that really, didn't they, at the start? So that was good though. That's good.
And where did you go from there?
So when I came back, I had the opportunity to work with Alex Bond at Turners.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Alex knew each other vaguely before that, because he'd actually been the kitchen Anthony's that I worked in, he'd had previously run that a couple of years before, I think. So we kind of had sort of mutual sort of friends and things. When he'd learned I come back from Noma, I think at the time he'd just taken on the kitchen at Turners. Yeah. And he was sort of looking for chefs, and it just kind of dropped on. I said, I'm looking for a job, and kind of came down and just cracked on really. Yeah. And that was good, really good.
And what did you learn from Alex and Richard there?
So, I mean, Richard, again, I guess really when he's doing his food, it's very classical. Yeah. Very classical. And then when Alex was introduced, he has a slightly different approach, which is more, I don't want to say Nordic influence, but I guess that modern sort of, that kind of feel. So those two, you were trying to mash those two together. That's a bad word. Put those two together. Yeah. And, they're creating sort of this style that had a mix of the two. And that was good. Have
you been to Alex's restaurant?
I have, yeah. So I went probably a year ago before he got his start. Yeah. Really enjoyed it. I always like meeting with Alex. We always have a good laugh. So it's good to chat with the master, because we worked. We had a good relationship. But I think since he opened his restaurant and I opened mine, I think we've probably seen each other once or twice. I've spoken on the phone a handful of times. So it's good to see him. Yeah.
Things get a bit busy, don't they?
Yeah, you don't realise until you open a restaurant how much it consumes your life. It's going to be busy, but the extent of it is huge. Yeah.
Lots of sleepless nights, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so, were you, when you were at Turners, was it Michelin starred then? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
What is it like working in a Michelin starred kitchen? Is it really different, or is it much of the same? You've just got a sort of expectation from your customers.
Yeah, I mean, comparing Michelin star against Michelin star, they're very similar. Yeah. Because what you've got in there is, a high-paced, high-driven sort of team, and everybody. It's a good environment to work in, really, but it's hard, and I think it's hard initially to sort of transition from, I don't know, a slightly lower-end kitchen or a bistro-style kitchen to that, because you're expected to do more, you're expected to sort of carry more weight on your shoulders, the responsibility is higher, etc., and then ultimately the quality of the food's higher. Yeah. And there's kind of no rooms for sort of slip-ups or anything like that.
Yeah, because you have to maintain a pace and a sort of rigour to everything, because you never know.
Yeah. So when you first go into it, I think it's very hard, but as soon as you acclimatise to that and you get used to it and accept it for what it is, and that it's going to get you, where you want to be 5 years, 10 years down the line, then you just sort of grin and bear it. I think. Yeah. It's worth it.
Overall and enjoyable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Really worth it, I would say.
What were your thoughts on Richard's decision to sort of power down the menu and eventually move to Marabout?
I think initially it was a bit of a shock, because when you have, say, a reputable chef like Richard running a Michelin star kitchen, and then he turns around and he says, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to give, I don't want to say bistro food, but it was that approach, but at a high end.
Make it.
Yeah, and he might have even said, thanks to Michelin, whatever. Yeah. It's sort of almost an acceptance that if I do this, I'm going to lose my star. Yeah. So he did that, but I'm sure he had his reasons for it. I certainly know he wanted to attract more custom, and obviously sometimes Michelin star restaurants, they tend to be special occasion restaurants, so you don't necessarily pack them full all of the time every day, like say everyday restaurants. Yeah. Maybe. So maybe that was his reasoning, but I'll never know really why
in terms of cost, and even because it may seem a bit less approachable, people think, oh, it's got to start, it must be fancy.
Yeah, I guess so. There's that level of intimidation towards some customers. I guess some of them are, I don't know why, because ultimately it's just a restaurant that's just trying to cook great food for customers to enjoy, but I guess there can be that aspect to it that people are a touch intimidated by them. Yeah.
So after Turners, where did you go from there?
So I probably took like a year's break after that, and because really I got to the end of Turners and ultimately I knew I wanted to open a restaurant, but it was trying to understand how I was going to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously not an easy process. There's so many things to consider. You need the right place at the right time to get the right funding for everything to drop into place. So it just took a bit of time out to think about that, and then during that time, that's where we decided to sort of go on to do the pop-up that we did.
Yeah.
Because once we decided that Birmingham would be a good city to do it in because of the sort of up-and-coming food culture scene, we thought, okay, we need to go and market test it to see if the food that we like to cook is going to be well received in the city.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's a lot of different high-end restaurants, but they're all very different in style and approach. And we need to just make sure if we were going to make this enormous investment that it's going to work. I guess. Yeah.
That you had a following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. And that was it. That was it as well. Like starting a following. Because just opening a restaurant out of nowhere is a bit crazy. A bit sort of.
It's a bold move. Yeah. So you keep saying we. Is that you and your partner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, I was always the main driver, but because I guess I'm the chef, and ultimately this is why we work in kitchens to get here. But Lucy's always been really supportive in doing the front of house with it and sort of supporting decisions with me, and we do it together now, and it's a good team, I guess.
Yeah, it's good to have. To have a person that understands what you're going through all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how does one go about doing a pop-up? Like who did you approach? What was the process? Where did you start?
So initially, what I actually did once I decided I wanted to do this, I went and had a chat with Alex from the Wilderness.
Yeah.
And at that time, he was at his old location, which is just next to the train station.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because I knew that he'd basically done what I wanted to do, which was host a series of pop-ups and managed to get his own restaurant from it.
Yeah.
So I just had a chat with him about, that whole process, what he was thinking, how he did it, and took a bit of advice from him that way. And then after that sort of conversation, I just went around sort of different locations in the city that I thought might be able to sort of help me sort of host these. It was generally cafes,
mm-hmm.
because most cafes shut at 5, so it gives like a window of opportunity really to do something in the evening. I mean, a lot of them didn't even respond to emails, so they weren't receptive, but I managed to obviously secure one with Urban Cafe in the centre of Birmingham.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a single independent?
Yeah, well, they've actually got a couple of sites. There's actually one in the Jewellery Quarter as well.
Okay.
But it is an independent coffee shop, yeah. So we made a kind of a loose agreement to start off on weekends, in the evening, just to do one service and see how it went really. And then we did a couple in the week, and it was just kind of, the schedule was just a bit sporadic really. It's like, so some months we'd do more than others and things like that really.
And what's the agreement when you set up something like that? Do you say, okay, you will get a percentage of however much we make, or?
It was mixed, because I actually did it in a couple of locations in that year period, but some places wanted, say, like a cut of the take-ins, X amount, and some places just wanted sort of a higher cost. So, if you want to use this venue, fine, it's going to be this amount.
Okay, like a set cost.
Yeah. So that was it really. It was quite as simple as that. Yeah.
And you did that for how long?
A year.
So,
okay.
About
a year, yeah. So we did about nearly all the pop-ups in Birmingham, but we did a couple. We did one in Leeds,
mm-hmm.
one in Newcastle as well. Just, it sounds really random, I know, but
No, I mean, once you've sort of built up a following, you can kind of go wherever, can't you? As long as you've got a good marketing strategy, and you know that you're going to be able to get the word out there to people that want to come and eat your food. You can go wherever, can't you?
Yeah, well, when it's, say, for example, like the one in Leeds and Newcastle, because they're one-off events, I think that stems a lot of people's interest, and they're very much, want to get involved or whatever, because they think, all right, well, there's one opportunity to do this, let's just go. So they were always, really good sell-out events, those.
Yeah, that must be a really good feeling.
Yeah, it was, because at the start you're a bit apprehensive because you just have no idea if anyone's going to turn up at all.
Sat there in an empty restaurant.
When you've got your first sort of advertisement ready to post, you think, what's going to happen here? I don't know. And but yeah, very lucky that we did well with that. And we had it's just how it goes, I guess.
Good.
Yeah.
And where did you go from there? So how did you go from pop-ups to having your own place?
I think when we got toward the end of the year period, we felt comfortable that we had a good response in that year, and that people liked our food, and because we had a lot of people come back and time again just to this pop-up in a cafe, which felt quite good really. But so we thought from that period, okay, we can do this, we can do this. So from that point, we just started loosely looking at places in Birmingham or the Birmingham area that we could afford, or that were in sort of good locations, things like that, because the way we funded it was just ourselves, so we don't have the luxury of some of these restaurants that have millionaire investors that don't care about the money, so we had to make sure that we got a smallish restaurant like we do now, one that we could afford, and kind of just minimize risk where we could.
So is this literally no investors? Is it like a bank loan? Did you do a crowdfunding? How did you actually get the money together to get this place?
So we'd done this. This is a sort of, I guess my investors are a family really. So we'd done this. That we didn't really want to get the sort of banks involved or other investors because we wanted to try and keep it
independent.
Yeah, keep it independent. But if there's just us involved, then we don't have to please anybody else. It's our decisions, and we're not. Some restaurants can be led by certain aspects of, investors want this or this, whereas this is solely us, and we can do whatever we want. And
And if it all goes to pot, you only got yourself to blame, and you only got yourself in trouble. Good. Well, now we're here, and it's a beautiful restaurant.
Thank you.
You opened in late 2017, is that right?
Yeah, November.
So if you had to describe this restaurant to people, what would you say?
Well, the feel we went for was we wanted to go for, I don't want to say minimal really. We wanted it minimal. I didn't want frills or tablecloths or anything like that. So we wanted just this sort of minimal feel restaurant. Some people describe it as a bit Scandinavian, but I don't know.
Yeah, I get that.
I guess that's what minimal is. It
kind of feels like someone's nice open plan apartment in a way. It's stripped back, modern, not pretentious, like you said, no frills, but all very nicely furnished. And
well, that's why we wanted it clean, minimal, because again, that's a reflection of our food. We don't, our food is kind of no frills or nothing. It's just, sort of as fewer things on a plate as possible. Just tastes really good, and so I guess you want to reflect that in the dining room as well. Sort of that same theme throughout. So
that sort of leads on to my next question. You half answered it already, but if you had to describe your own cooking, how would you do that? Like what defines your food and your style of cuisine?
Well, I would say, sort of first and foremost, we are ingredient led. So any dish that comes on the menu here it always starts off with the ingredient, and I try to put as few things with it as possible, sort of maximize. If, for example, we're cooking the beef dish later today, that dish we cook is about the beef, so it doesn't need huge amounts of things on the side because it's not what the dish is about. So we just try to focus on the main sort of ingredient of the dish. And I said sort of 2, 3, 4 sometimes things on a plate with it, but
And like you were saying before, there's actually something quite difficult. There's challenge in making things simple. So there'll be a lot of work going into something to make it seem simple.
Yeah, they say is it complexity within simplicity or something. Yeah, it's very hard to make a simple looking dish.
Yeah.
Very, very good, but that's the challenge, I guess. Yeah.
And what sorts of ingredients do you get? Do you work with local suppliers?
Well, a whole host of things, really. I mean, we describe ourselves as a modern British restaurant, but within that we also sort of have other, I guess, so really ingredient wise we use probably like 90% British, but then there's just certain like amazing ingredients that as a high-end restaurant we try not to ignore, and we want to have them on the menu. Things like, you know, black winter truffles, or we get some amazing caviar from Germany. And for example, the beef today, we use different Wagyu beef sometimes, but we use the Japanese Wagyu as well as the English and the Welsh. But when you use a product like that, it's kind of, it's a
you can exonerate yourself from going local when it comes to quality.
But generally, you know, all the fish we get, we use sort of some wholesalers for fish in Cornwall, but generally we use we have sometimes specific boats in the time of year that catch certain fish for us and sort of dispatch them in certain ways for us. So it's very bespoke, a lot of the fish that we get. And then in the summer as well, we also have a grower in Devon that does the vegetables and stuff. Tend to not to be in the winter, because obviously there's not really much going on in terms of vegetables in the winter, but we do use things like that. Generally,
and is it a case of you tell them in advance what you want them to grow, or they just give you a call and say this is what we've got?
Also for the growers, they send sort of a weekly list saying this week this is available, and then
you go from there.
And what sets you apart in terms of the sorts of techniques and even equipment that you use? What would you say is different about what you do to other chefs in other restaurants? Sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot.
I don't know. I think our food is definitely different in Birmingham to the local restaurants. Probably in style. We also try to do with our dishes is we always try to have something on there that's not, the phrase doesn't say run of the mill, but I don't just like to have something that you could get in any restaurant somewhere. So I'd like to always have some preparation that's unique on there, something like you'll see today, because I think it's important that you establish yourself, as a restaurant, as a chef, where you have a little bit.
A word that chefs like to use a lot is challenging, I think, or like pushing boundaries a little bit. Is that what you mean?
We try not to. You don't want to push the boundaries too far sometimes. You don't want to sort of
not
scare
for the
the
sake
customer.
of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but certainly, challenging yourself, but also, trying to create something new, because if you just do the same things, same preparations, nothing new is going to come about or whatever.
So keep it fluid.
Yeah.
And it's tasting menu only here?
Yeah, so in the evening it's just 5 or 7 courses.
Okay.
We do offer a 3-course at lunch as well, but again that's, I guess, tasting menu format in the sense that it's non-optional, so it's you come in at lunch, it's either 3, 5 or 7 courses. Yeah.
And have people been receptive to that format?
Yeah, I think initially when you first open, everybody wants to try a new restaurant when they're open, so you get people that don't agree with it, because they come and they say, why can't I choose what I want to eat? It's just like, well, you don't do that, you can go down the road if you want to do that. That's fine. So I think once you've got that, past that first initial 6 months, and people then start to understand what you are, then you don't get that, and people are just happy to come and do it. I mean, we even have a pre-order format now, so people, before they even turn up, they've already picked what they've got. So, and that helps the kitchen a tremendous amount in terms of sort of preparation and things like that. So that helps us. Yeah.
I've seen you've got a notice on the door, just if you're willing to cater for sort of dietaries and allergens and everything, you just need prior advance.
Yeah, there are always those that turn up and think that you hold like an entire tasting menu in a freezer for like a vegan or whatever. There are always those people that turn up, but generally people are good with that, and they'll give you the notice that you need.
Yeah.
Some people just don't understand that. They don't understand that you need the notice to cater for them.
Yeah, of course. You've only got so much fridge space.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, people are good with that. So.
Good. And so would you say that your food is really exactly what you want it to be, or would you say that you sometimes have to rein that in to meet customer expectations?
I don't think it is where I want it to be just yet.
Mm-hmm.
With this restaurant, we have certain limitations. The size of the kitchen is small, so the maximum number of chefs we can ever have at once is probably 4 or 5 if you want to work shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
So sometimes you may have an idea or you might want to do something, but it's not necessarily viable to do it because you know, say operationally you can't do it, or you just haven't got the space or whatever. So try and do sort of the best we can with what we have at the moment. And getting chefs as well is a nightmare. Getting staff is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't even have the hands in order to say to do the dish. So yeah, I guess we do the best within the limitations that we have, but hopefully, going forward, we can just keep developing and hopefully get there. I think as a chef, naturally, you're never happy with what you do anyway.
Yeah.
But
from a customer's perspective, you're not holding anything back out of fear that they're not going to.
No.
They're not going to be open to it.
Yeah, there are certain things that we've done in the past that as chefs, sometimes you taste something, you say, oh, that's amazing. But then you think, you're a chef and your interest is food, but your interest is new food as well. You want to taste something different, but not every customer that comes through the door wants that. They just want something that tastes good.
Yeah, of course.
If something's like a little bit strange or just not, so you got to find the right balance with that.
Of course.
Got to find the right balance.
How much time do you dedicate to development in the kitchen?
So during the week, at the moment, it's near and impossible to do it because of just sort of sheer amount of work to do versus time we have.
Versus staff? Are you operating on like sort of
a
skeleton team?
At the moment, we have three in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And really, we need. We have 3. We need 5, I would say. So it's very hard at the moment, but moving forward, when we get more chefs, we've got a couple starting in a few weeks, which hopefully then we can start to. Now that we'll get more depth to the team, then we'll be able to do more of that. We've tried to come in on our days off as well.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Yeah, because you're open here Wednesday to Saturday, is that right?
Yeah, so we only do 4 days.
Yeah.
But even because of the staffing issue, we're I work sort of 6.5 days a week to make sure that we're ready. So trying to find time to do it is hard at the moment. But that's the best part of this job really is doing the new stuff, not the repetition of everything. So we'll get there hopefully soon. But it's hard at the moment.
Work in progress.
Yeah.
Why is it, do you think, that there's a particular problem to find sort of chefs in and around Birmingham?
I don't know if it's probably. I think it's probably a nationwide shortage, not just sort of Birmingham. I don't know. Obviously, ultimately, I guess there's just less people entering the trade. I don't know if it's the working hours versus the pay, because everybody knows really that chefs have worked hard and not paid a great deal. So maybe it's that.
And thus under the government rules classed as unskilled, despite being a highly skilled job. Yeah. So maybe it's that scaring them off. Like I said, I think from the day we opened the door, we've struggled with staff, and I imagine every other restaurant out there is the same. Or always struggle with staff. That's the hardest thing I'd say about it. I don't know. It'd be really great if you could do something to have it interest the young more in order to get more into the industry. It's very hard. Fingers crossed. There'll be more people coming into the industry. I think well, it kind of leads on to my next question, and it's about Birmingham and its budding food scene. Hopefully, sort of seeing restaurants like this, and you know, a lot of other new successful restaurants in Birmingham will sort of inspire younger people to consider careers in this industry. So, I think from my standpoint, anyway, the restaurant scene here has really sort of revitalised the city centre in Birmingham. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, the food scene is amazing here. There's so many good restaurants in such sort of a small area. It's crazy. I don't know if they say there's the most Michelin stars in a
cluster.
Yeah, I think so, something like that. But and like I said earlier, what's great about them is they all have contrasting styles. They're not, no restaurant is the same. You know, we have us here, that we have our style, and then just up the road is Alex the Wilderness, that just kind of Asian, kind of influence these days. And up the road is Akhtar Islam, that does Indian, and then Penel's is another 200 metres away, and so we're all nearby each other, but all very different. So I guess it's great for a customer just to be able to pop out the house and just have so many options as to what they can do. Yeah.
It's great. I think it reflects what Birmingham is about, really, that diversity, and really good. I guess my next question is, given all of these great restaurants, you know, we've got you've always had the Penels and the Adams, and now you have, like you said, you've got a theme, and you've got Carter's a little bit way out getting stars. Alex is an amazing chef. I don't know how familiar you are with Stu, but he just won MasterChef The Professionals. How does this make you feel like about the city's culinary future?
Oh, no, I think it's great. You know, it's great to see younger chefs, say like Stu, that are, that have the opportunity now to open restaurants. I guess I would be classed as part of this new generation chef. I guess so. But I think it's really exciting. And I think everybody in Birmingham is quite supportive of each other as well. I mean, I'm certainly well supported by certain people, even from the start, which is really good, because I don't know what it's like in other cities, but I certainly know that, say, some restaurants might, if a new restaurant opens nearby, that similar might be apprehensive about them opening, and therefore, you know, a bit sort of
competitive, a bit dog eat dog.
Yeah, but it's not like that. Yeah, not in my experience anyway. Not in my experience.
It must be good to be able to recommend when customers ask you, you know, where's a good place to eat, to be able to say, well, up the road is this guy, and he does this great type of cuisine. And
yeah, absolutely.
And so, where obviously, I'm sure you have your fair share of beans on toast at home, but when you maybe have time off from here, do you get time to eat out anywhere, and if so, where do you go?
So my favourite place to eat, which I'm actually going to after this today.
Are you?
Yeah, is there's a little sushi bar. Do you know it? It's called I don't know. I told you what it's called. It's called Gaijin Sushi, and it's about 500 meters away from it. But on a Sunday, when I'm weary, you know, from the night before, the back end of the week, I always like to go to this place, because I always feel like it heals me, you know. So I always go and have the same sort of things, but that's where I go on my days off, and just kind of eat as much sushi as my stomach can handle, and then that kind of heals me, as I say, and then kind of ready to get on with the week.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's not even a sort of a high-end restaurant, I guess, really. But it certainly had, I think it's had nationwide recognition of how good it. But again, it just shows sort of how diverse the city is, and we have even restaurants that are not considered, I guess, you know, these high-end fine dining restaurants. We've got great kind of places like that you can go and just
middle range restaurants.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
great food.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. Okay, so before we wrap up, I kind of want to ask you a few more questions about Folium. I didn't actually ask you before, but why Folium? Why that name?
So it's only called Folium because before we took it on, I think it was a derelict warehouse, but it'd been derelict for about 7 years, something like that, until it got redeveloped, because the back's been developed into apartments, but the front it's obviously this. But a business that used to operate here was called Folium Press Limited.
Okay.
So, and everybody apparently in the area knew it as the Folium building. So we just thought it fit in that we kept that name, because then I guess when people heard the name, they might know where it is or that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's already a familiar place.
Yeah, and it was good actually, because when we first opened, we probably had like quite a lot of people, well not a lot of people, but maybe like 10 or 15 people come in and say, I used to work at Folium Press Limited, so I thought I'd come and eat here. So yeah, that's the reason we call it that. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. So you've been vindicated by the critics. You had a Marina OLaughlin come in and give you a raving review.
Yeah.
I don't know if our listeners are familiar, but you had Meat and One Veg come in, gave you a brilliant review as well.
Yeah.
What does that signify for you? Does that mean anything to you, or is that just more customers through the door? Does that compliment resonate with you, or is that just something that kind of flies above your head?
No, it's obviously always great to have somebody come in and then tell you how much they enjoyed it, because ultimately that's confirmation in your mind that the job you're doing is a good one.
Yeah,
really. Certainly I know when we got the review from Marina, and they just happened we just got an Instagram message one day just saying, you've been reviewed by Marina OLaughlin, can we have this? And I just put my head in my hands. I was like, I hope this is a good review, otherwise this is going to kill my restaurant. This is going to kill my restaurant.
Ways, right?
Yeah. So, and that was published, I think, 2.5 weeks after I got the message. So that was a very long 2.5 weeks. But luckily, it was a good one. And then the other blog that you mentioned there, that was great to get as well. But we didn't open this restaurant to get raving reviews from papers or accolades or whatever. Ultimately, we just wanted to open a restaurant that people wanted to come to, that we could, enjoy working here as well. I think that's really important as well in your job. And if we got sort of recognition for what we did, then that's just a bonus. That's really good. Yeah.
I mean, it is worth mentioning that you were kind of in the Good Food Guide this year and Michelin Guide this year. That must still be a great feeling, like you said. Even if that's not what you're pushing for, it must feel great to have that recognition.
No, it's good. No, of course it's good. Yeah, it's really good. And it doesn't define your restaurant, those things, but like as I mentioned, they're just good ways to they're good I don't know, things to say, just to say you're doing good, or you
keeps you positive when you wake up.
Yeah, because not every day is a good day. You have hard days as well, and so these things do help.
Yeah. And so, just to finish up, do you feel happy with the place not location, the place that Folium is in terms of how successful it is and the food, and where do you see yourself taking it in the future?
I think you can always make it better.
Yeah.
I mean, as I mentioned, the food I would still like. It's still not where I want it to be, I would say. So going forward a couple of years, I would like to make the food a bit more refined and do a longer offering on the menu, sort of 9 or 11 courses or whatever. It's just not something we can do at the moment. And the restaurant, we've always talked about where we might take it next. We don't know really. We just take every day as it comes. It's a very romantic thought to think it'd be nice to move into the city centre with a bigger restaurant and try and attract some investment to make a grand restaurant. But I don't know.
Yeah.
They're just thoughts. We love this restaurant. It's just small and it's just nice to run. It's just not too pompous or anything, and so we have fun here. So that's the main thing, really.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I very much look forward to getting to the kitchen and having a look at the food that you prepare here. And I'm very grateful for you taking the time on a day where you're not working or not open. So thanks very much for taking the time, and have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download, And finally, if you like what we do, whether it's our podcast or our videos or even our features, please head over to our Patreon page and support us there. This episode of Grilled by the Staff Canteen is sponsored by Westlands, the premier specialist British grower of microleaf, growing cresses, edible flowers, inspired leaves, sea herbs and specialty tomatoes. Visit www.westlandsuk.co.uk to find out more.